Hey, welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, we love seeing you live every Thursday night, Facebook and YouTube. Those are always a good time. The chats are always fun, and the chats keep us accountable when we're about 5 minutes late. But remember, your chats may show up on the show. And if you can't catch us live, catch us in the replay or in your favorite podcasting app. You know me. My name is John Ruark. I'm a past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957, in Fairfax, Virginia. And now in Mobile Masonic Command, Joe Martinez. How you doing?
Hello. How are you? Joe Martinez. I am leaving some masonry to do some more masonry. So Joe Martinez, past and current master of Manassas Lodge, number 182 in Manassas, Virginia, member of Things and Stuff. And I will be at my desk in about 7 minutes. So great to be here.
Going from one quarry to the next. Awesome. Last but not least for tonight, Robert Johnson. How's it going, buddy?
It's going. I got this awesome cut on my nose from my dog who decided to paw at me, and that's all she did, you know. You got big dogs, you know what's up. Anyway, past master of Waukegan 78, past master Space Novum 1183, and the perpetual secretary of all the things I'm probably in. You know, I never took the I did for a minute. I'm not currently the secretary of my Royal Arch, my Cryptic Council, my Commandery, or my Scottish Rite.
You're lazy.
But there could be a future.
Yes.
You're lazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, happy to be here. I got my hillbilly highball ready to talk about virtual masonry.
Sweet. Awesome. Secretary Emeritus in all the things. If Joe's going to be master forever, you can be secretary forever.
You know, I can't wait to be Joe's secretary.
Nice.
And then John could be the education guy for the lodge.
Count me in. I'm there.
What if we start a virtual lodge?
Oh, what?
Ooh. And then, but I have to give Jason a job. Jason is
The Tyler.
Tyler for life.
But then we'd have to have the kind of lodge where I pay him if he doesn't come in, because that's
there you go.
We have a lot of fun, and you got to compensate for that.
Acme of Awesomeness Lodge number 123.
Perfect.
Nice. Awesome. Let's see. Did you get here early enough for Tarot Card of the Week? Yes. Despite Joe's efforts to drive away.
Yes.
We'll still have that, so don't worry about that. Let's get into the first order of events, which is to thank the patrons who support the show. You guys are awesome. You rock our socks. You make us happy every week. So hopefully we provide a little bit of value back to you, because we love doing this. It's a labor of love, and we love the love that you give back. So thank you. See how smooth that was? That was good. I like that. Tarot Card of the Week is the next order of event, and let me just whip up a little musical number here. Joe, don't crash.
I might.
Tarot Card of the Week.
The highlight of my week. All right, on the topic of VR Masonry, what have we got?
Hey, it's my wife.
Hey, Corey.
Hi, Corey.
Boom.
Tarot of the Little Prince.
Who here has read The Little Prince?
Oh, man, that's been years ago.
Yes, but it is a fantastic story that adults and kids can learn from together. If you're an adult out there and you haven't read The Little Prince to your kids, you're welcome. Just do it. Do it for bedtime. It's a lot of fun. You'll learn something. They'll learn something. And Saint Exupery is really a great writer with this. And this particular tarot deck I bought because Spencer Hammond, who
Mhm.
most of our viewers, I think, know of him if they don't know him personally. It's one of his favorite books. And one day I saw this tarot deck and I bought one for him and one for me. And I gave him one. I said, so now we both have one, you know. And it was kind of a cool gift. But anyway, for this week, we'll be pulling from that deck. All of the artwork is, you know, scenes from the book, obviously. And so I'll draw. Hold on.
Hopefully there was the cards ripping.
It was, yeah, it was the cards.
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
If I ripped, you know, something else, I'd let you know. I'm a man. I know.
I own it.
I own it. So this is the back of the card. So you might remember the little planet that the prince lives on with this little rose that is like in love with him. But anyway, so the card we drew was the Two of Pentacles.
Ooh.
So if you remember in the beginning of the book, the little prince runs across this engineer who you know, he's fixing his airplane. And he's in the middle of the desert, or like, you know, a place where there's not a lot of stuff around. It's kind of desolate. So when I thought about this, I immediately thought about like multiple priorities and
Yep.
like really trying to figure out, you know, how to prioritize things, how to adapt, which you know, I'll say kind of leads into virtual masonry when you talk about adaptation.
Right.
But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Two of Pentacles.
Yeah. So twos and tarots, right? It's balance, it's choice, it's usually partners, right? And you can see a partnership there, which I like the mentorship aspect there. You know, it's early in the numbering system, so it's part of the beginning of the journey.
Yeah.
And in the material world. So it's kind of like choosing your vocation, starting a new project, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a good card for making choices now that hope to pay off later.
Yeah, I agree.
I like it.
Fun card, fun set. If you guys pick it up, I think I picked this one up at Second and Charles, so you can get it there.
Nice.
It's by Rachel Paul and Martina Rossi, and it's by everybody's favorite tarot company. I never pronounce it right. Lascarabeo, made in Torino, Italy. So keeping it alive there. The book is meh. You know, it's just a little white book, same as always.
Sure.
You know, nothing super special. But what's nice about that is the price point. You know, it's a $20 deck. You don't have to worry about spending $35, $40 on a deck because it's like boxed with a magnet top and all that. So,
oh, nice.
Anyway, check it out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I was thinking like, what are some other good like literary adaptations that would make good tarot cards?
Well, the literary tarot was fantastic. The only problem I've ever had with the literary tarot was that, you know, it's not a single tarot deck based on a single thing. It's every single card
right.
is a literary adaptation of some classic. But it's a fantastic deck. Look at that guy. There he is. What are you on? You on that new Switch 2 webcam or?
Yeah, I'm having a day. I'm having a
All
day.
right.
Boys and girls, just let
We
me
still
be.
like you.
I mean, my God, I'm like those people that, you know, wear like their Masonic regalia at home, like when nobody's around. It's like, I'm gonna wear my jewel of this.
You mean it's not normal to do that?
No, it is not.
Oh, okay.
Barb's like, take that off right now. And you're like, take that off right now, right, worshipful?
Yeah,
She's like, no.
it doesn't go well in this home.
It doesn't go well anywhere.
Yes.
All right. So, ready for an exciting conversation tonight because, and unfortunately, Jason couldn't join us here at the last minute. This was his idea to dive in deep into VR Masonry. So we've talked about online Freemasonry. We, of course, were big proponents of that, in case you haven't heard. And then there's the next step, the next evolution, which, you know, is kind of been a joke for many years, but we're getting close to it possibly being a viable lodge experience. So tonight we'll explore kind of what the possibilities are, the history that could get us to where we are today, and, you know, what that might look like in a lodge experience in the metaverse or in some sort of alternate reality. So I'm excited about that. So let's see. I think to do it justice, we probably should go back and start kind of at the beginning, right? So there's been Masonry on the internet as long as there's been the internet, right? Because Masonry has really predated the internet. And so as soon as online forums were there where people could share information, like the old bulletin board systems, there were Usenet groups that people could start sharing information. Hey, I'm a brother from here. This is what lodge I'm from. And you talk to many folks. I see Brother Scott Sherman is on here live for once. So shout out to him, who just told me tons of stories about those early days of Masonry on the internet and the brotherhood, and most importantly, how you very quickly learn how things are done differently across jurisdictions, right? Like, holy smokes, there's this a completely different flavor of Masonry, just, in the state next to me and beyond.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure what happened was as soon as Masons had the capability to share their thoughts online, they started complaining, right? It was like,
Harumph.
This is not how you do it.
That's right.
And then there was the first guy who said, remember your oaths.
Yes.
That's right.
There was one guy who did it the first time.
Who was the first one?
Yeah.
If
man.
If I could go back in time, that's maybe I wouldn't.
That needs to be saved for posterity.
Bring up the Wayback Machine and go search old bulletin boards and find the very first time somebody ever said that.
Yeah, it'd be good.
I'm game.
All right. Right. So then you had blogs, podcasts, you had that natural evolution. We had then the whole COVID thing happened, where not only were lodges meeting, not on their stated meetings, but some jurisdictions even started letting lodges meet as stated meetings through things like Zoom, WebEx, etc. Joe?
Well, you had virtual Masonry before COVID, for sure. I mean, I definitely remember attending. The first one that comes to mind, Castle Island Virtual Lodge, in Manitoba. If that's right.
I believe so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're no longer friends with Canada, so I don't have to remember their map anymore. So,
once they become the 51st state, we'll
somewhere up there. But yeah, no, they definitely were alive and kicking before COVID. And then all these other jurisdictions started popping up with online Masonry as well.
Indeed.
I think about some of those like first really big steps. Like, who is the Grandmaster and how much sleep did they lose when he was like, there's a lodge, there's guys that want to start a virtual lodge, they don't do degree work, they're just meeting for education, they're going to virtually tile. Like, that's the guy I want to go, whoa, how progressive can you be? Because I swear, if you say that today to a Grandmaster who may not be aware that these things exist, they might have a little poopy in their pants.
True. Right.
And here we are talking about like virtual Masonry.
Right. Yeah, because again, what's the first thing comes to mind, as you said, is how do we protect the secrets of Freemasonry, right? That's the first step to do anything Masonic. We take our obligations very seriously, and we want to make sure that those secrets that we swear to keep, secret, stay that way. And so even if you're out in the world, right, you're not going to just like start, if you find another brother in the wild, you're not just going to start talking about a whole bunch of Masonic secrets in public. You're going to go somewhere private. You're going to lock a door. You're going to, shut a window, right? You could do that. And that's been around for centuries. But what's the shutting a door or closing the window equivalent online, right? With access controls and, password protected forums back in the day. And then now it starts to get, even trickier.
Yeah. So when I think about this, I mean, this is first and foremost, from my experience, the largest concern has always been the idea of protecting the closed door and tiling. And it's interesting because I feel like this notion is held on to more for perhaps historical need than practical need today. I don't see Masons discussing anything that couldn't be published. Honestly, but I mean aside from the degree work, right? But of course circumstances could arise, who knows, right? Like times are weird.
Well, I think that you took a lot of pregnant pauses. I was waiting to talk, and you're like, "Is he done? Is he
No,
no?"
sorry. Yeah, I didn't want to.
It's called dramatic effect. It's
Very-
called showmanship.
Chattering.
Yeah, like third trimester pauses there, buddy.
No,
Anyway, what I was going to say was, and I didn't want to interrupt RJ, was that it's you bring up a really good point. I mean, when you go to your average lodge and there is the lodge that doesn't do much of anything. They get together, they have a meal, they go inside, they read the letters, they read the correspondences, all those good things, and then they go home. Yeah, what really is the purpose of tiling the door of the lodge, right? There's nothing
Hey,
solemn, there's
that-
nothing.
That light bill, that electricity bill, that is the quintessential secrets of Freemasonry.
But see, that's the rub, right? And I know you're joking when you say that, but I mean, that's the rub. Is like you have Masons that have been Masons for 20, 30 more years that their only experience in Masonry is I need to shut this door to talk about the secrets of Masonry, which are our bills and the letter from Eastern Star and how much we're giving to this newsletter for this or whatnot. And that's really what they think. They don't think that we're shutting the door for another purpose. So it really calls into question, why do we do it in those circumstances?
If you're new here, there is more to Masonry. There are secrets in Masonry. Don't let anybody tell you different.
But I mean, it's like I said, how many people would be astonished to know that the purpose for closing the door has many more meanings than the light bulb discussion?
I know. Yeah, it's fascinating because you're absolutely right. There absolutely could be brothers whose that's been their whole lodge experience, and that's the way we've always done it.
maybe this needs some additional unpacking as well, which is a different show topic. But I think we should mention the fact that a lot of the things that Grand Lodges consider the secrets are very practical things. Modes of recognition, handshakes, passwords, points of entrance, the penalty of your obligations. Those kinds of things are what's codified. In my jurisdiction as secret, and everything else is written in a book, plain as day. You might be able to find it at a thrift shop. I mean, that's just it, right? So it makes me wonder, right? Like, if those are the secrets, then everything else, like perhaps if you wanted to discuss the symbolism of tiling a lodge, which maybe you feel isn't or shouldn't be done in the open, there's nothing to preclude you from doing that based on your Grand Lodge's code. And yet Grand Lodge says these are the only secrets, but they're not. Like,
and I know that a couple of hosts of TMR have worked with like government sensitive information, and then there's multiple levels of that, and then you have those things where you have an open meeting, but you start dancing around some really sensitive topics, and you're like, I don't know if I should be talking about that right here. You get this weird like I gotta take a shower kind of feeling that. Okay, I'm kind of dancing a little too close to the line, right? But that's again, it's all about your integrity of protecting what you believe to be, the integrity of the fraternity, which is the next step that we have to consider when we're doing anything virtually, online, on the interwebs, etc. Not in a closed, locked door kind of meeting. So, wanted to bring up the kind of another part of the inspiration for this episode, where there's a group on Facebook called the London Masons. They posted on March 31st at 4 p.m. Eastern Time that London Freemasons launch a lodge in the metaverse. And, they had much, celebration for opening this lodge. Here's 3 brothers actually participating in lodge. Obviously, you have to come in full regalia to go into the metaverse.
Did you put the regalia on in the metaverse? Like,
no, they're all foxes.
Oh.
And so those people who can do time zones will realize that this launched immediately in London on April Fool's Day, at the beginning of April Fool's Day, right after midnight. So, so yes, this is a good April Fool's joke that some liked it, some didn't. Yeah, it definitely, what they say with humor is good humor actually has a little bit of reality and truth to it. So, it's a possibility. It could be a possibility.
I hate the fact that when you realize it's an April Fool's joke, right? But probably somewhere around comment 500, when dudes are just, vitriolic postings and all this stuff about, this is a tragedy. They don't even realize that it was a joke. But why do I feel like it's turning on the light to see the cockroaches? Man, like those kind of responses, I immediately thought, well, I'm glad I don't sit in lodge with those guys.
Yeah.
I think step one to doing something like that would be so much fun. Like Adam Power or Alex Power. Sorry, Alex. Alex Powers was one of the first people who started doing virtual tours of lodges via like Meta. He was doing like 3-dimensional scans of lodge rooms and walkthroughs, and
I forgot about that. Yeah.
I think he might still have some of those up, if not all of them. I'm not sure, but his goal was to get all the Kansas lodges to do it so you could have this virtual like walkthrough of the lodge. And I was just like, this is the coolest dang thing. And then like Masons using technology.
Yeah, Patrick Tessier says, saying Masons use technology at all should have been the first inkling. It was a joke.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. All right, so let's take it a step forward. That's a little bit of the history there. What are the possibilities? So what would we have to consider in order to build out this Masonic experience in an actual virtual world that we can interact with? We can meet other people virtually just by wearing a headset, right? There's a couple things that we probably need to consider. Who wants to who wants to go first? What's on the top of your head?
I got to push it to Joe first and foremost as an IT security like expert, because that's the first thing a Grand Lodge is going to throw up.
Well, knowing that Masons in general spend so much of their budgets on technology, we're so technology forward as a society of men. No, all kidding aside, there has been secure methods of communicating online and virtually for 20 years now. So, people have classified conversations, via chat that end up on the news, so it can be done. It can be done. So,
Can be done.
But security wise, that would probably be the least of the issues we would have is you can close down places online. whether you're doing it via headset or not. That's not an issue. You just got to spend a little money and be a little proactive about security, and that's completely not. There are more ways to secure things online than physical lodge buildings, right?
Oh yeah, they're probably better than the 95-year-old guy with a sword
95-year-old
outside the lodge. Yeah,
Absolutely.
he's going to keep the bad guys away.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. And when you look at, okay, so Castle Island Virtual Lodge has adopted Zoom, right, as a platform. Now, theoretically, anyone at Zoom headquarters could listen in on your encrypted meeting, right? So that's just a very, very, very low risk, but it is certainly a risk nonetheless. But it's a risk that the Grand Lodge of Manitoba has decided to take, and that's, I think, perfectly acceptable because same thing. There is no such thing as a 100% tiled lodge, right? That's the old security joke. The only thing is 100% secure computer is one that's disconnected from the internet, buried in a vault underground, like covered in cement, and maybe no information will get out someday, right? So the same thing is true. You're never going to get 100% security, but you can get 99 point something, enough confidence to say, this is good. This is good enough for Masonry. Yes. I think the next step beyond that then is access control, discretionary access control, where, okay, we think that there really is a very low possibility of any conversations being overheard. Now, how do you let people in, right? How do you make sure that you check the list to make sure that it is a true and lawful brother who's allowed to listen into the conversation? So how does Castle Island Virtual Lodge do that today?
Well, they used to have you send a picture of your dues card. I don't know about now.
And made sure it was current. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I remember sending Nicholas Lane a copy of my dues card for Waukegan 78.
Yep.
Heck, I remember when we first started this show, before we ever went live, everybody was like, yeah, okay. And everybody showed the dues card on our webcam.
I forgot about that. You're right.
Even we were like,
I had never met you in person until that point. Yeah. I still need to see Joe's dues card.
Which one?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be crazy? In 40 years, we find out Joe was clandestine and was the most active Mason in regular Masonry without a dues card.
How'd the guy become Grandmaster anyway?
You guys have seen a cupboard of antidepressants. You know damn well. I'm a regular Mason. Okay. So,
all right. Okay. So let's assume we've got the security aspect covered. All right. Next step forward. What does that look like? Right. So what are the possibilities? Because let's dip our toe in the water. We could do an untiled Masonic presentation virtually. We could do that today, right? Without having to jump through hoops, because we've got lots of online YouTube channels and Facebook groups like Refracted Light that share educational topics that are available for anyone, the public, the general public, to go see. So there's nothing stopping that from transferring in the virtual world today. Yep. So presentations, that should be pretty easy to do. RJ?
Yeah, when I think about virtual Masonry and the discussion of any kind of secrets, like the first thing that I really just jump to, and I think we should just talk about the elephant, is ritual.
Aha.
I mean, we've seen sort of the beginning stages of this. Like historically, I think we've run the gamut of, in the 1800s rather. If you look at, say, some of the Scottish Rite manuscripts, they talk about the elaborateness of these degrees. Cool. Well, then we sort of move into a space of streamlined degree work, whether that's Scottish Rite, That's the beauty of it, bro. We write it into the code. We write it into the code. We got a virtual pass master wall.
Just
where you
swipe right.
Like a
and if
scrolling
you,
background. Yeah, just old crusty people with scowly faces.
you stare at it, right? And you keep the point on it long enough, and then it opens a little bubble. And it tells you like what they were known for, what things they shot down that were super progressive. Yeah. So
I was going with that, man. I was going like, have any of y'all been to the haunted house at Disney World? And you've got the old paintings that the eyes follow you the whole time. So it'd just be scrolling, and some poor brother, makes eye contact, and now he's stuck with that grumpy past master in the virtual background the whole time. Just
the whole time. Yeah. Alex Powers' lodge has a photo of a guy like that in the lodge, and man, it's creepy. But what I'm thinking is like, so we've run the gamut of like all the stops in a physical place to a streamlined thing to even some jurisdictions today putting the lectures on video, and some jurisdictions completely omitting them and handing the people a pamphlet with the lectures in it. Read at your own leisure. Now, in this instance, we have, arguably thinking, if this is about experience,
right,
the world is your oyster.
See, that's what I'm excited about.
Okay, so I've brought this up before. There's a Bible Institute or a theological institute that has paid for and developed a 3-dimensional walkthrough of King Solomon's temple as it exists. It's the second temple, Herod's temple, and it's so much fun to just sit there. It's like on the this great engine, and it runs smooth, and you can walk around. There's nobody there. It's just you and the temple, and it's really cool. Now, then I thought, how cool would that be in the MetaQuest? Like I got a MetaQuest 3, which I bought out of curiosity, and I really liked using it for those things, like those 3D walkthroughs and things of historical sites and museums. And I just think like how cool a degree experience would be in that.
See, I thought of that and the first thing I thought of when we were talking about doing the show was I distinctly remember paying for those virtual tours on your headset. Like one was the pyramids of Giza, you could, or the Valley of Kings. You could go in there and look around and touch stuff and interact with things and stuff. And I knew this was going to come up tonight, but my first thought was going to be, do we want that or would you want that as the degree experience, or would you like to do that for like the lecture part of it? Because traditionally most places, right, that we are Masons in, you experience the degree and then you sit for 25 minutes at the end of the night when you're extremely exhausted.
Oh my gosh.
Lecture. And the candidate doesn't remember a damn thing of that lecture, right? He's got to hear it 17 more times before he's like, oh, okay, this is what I was doing here. This is what I was doing there. Why not give them that immersive experience after they receive the degree? And it's like, oh crap, I know what this is where I was standing, or this is what I was doing.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like that idea. So here's the first thought that comes to mind. So you still have your tiled in-person Masonic experience, especially going through the actual ritual itself, which we're all big proponents of, no secret there. And there's already been innovations throughout most of the jurisdictions where you have PowerPoint, right? That actually shows different scenes throughout the lecture. And I told you my dad just got raised about a month ago, and holy smokes. So they're getting him all set up after his the end of his third degree. They're getting ready to set up him for the lecture, and I'm all the way in the back, almost to the tiler of the room. And then from the very front, always to the east, I hear this loud buzzing sound, like what is that? And I look, and then this little like blurry image across the room starts to form, and they still had a working, barely, slide projector. And they were using actual slides, the ka-chunk, ka-chunk, that I haven't seen in 30 years.
Waukegan used one until 2013 or 2014 when we finally put it on a TV.
Yeah.
And then we had kind of a janky system where we used an SD card that plugged into a DVD player.
Right. So there you go. See,
Yeah,
that's a step forward, right? So I would much rather have a virtual experience where I can look around, experience it, be kind of immersed in it, than a buzzing out of focus, set of
here's an idea.
Reproductions of Magic Lantern slides.
Here's an idea, and I think this can happen literally between now and your next degree. MetaQuest has the ability to share to screen also. So you could sort of like build a room in a program.
Right.
With the degree
world.
slides in there.
Right.
Maybe put some three-dimensional objects. I don't know, fancy it up however you got to do it if you're so inclined. Candidate comes in for the degree. You sit them down in a chair. You put on the MetaQuest. You hand them the thingies, the controllers, center it out or whatever. It shares to the screen. Everybody in the lodge sees what he's looking at.
You can see what they're seeing. Right. Mm-hmm.
And you could just give the lectures.
I'll see you that. I love that. And I raise you. You ever go to like a really snazzy museum and as you're in like this one section, maybe it's the pottery section, and then you leave the pottery section, you move to the statue section, like the lights dim in the room you're leaving and they light up in the room you're coming into, and then all of a sudden this re-recorded track starts. So as you're walking around in the lecture, you get this audio track of someone with a delicious voice, right, that does that part of the lecture, and then you walk into the next part of the set or whatever.
I like it, yeah.
Because I said it, so I like it more.
I love it. I love the idea, and the reason why I love it is I'm not gonna entertain anybody who goes, "Oh, well, it's a recording and it's not the same." Blah 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 blah. Listen, I get it.
Totally get it.
And I raise you the fact of experience. When I go to a movie, if I hear Morgan Freeman giving me the download of the movie before it starts, that's way cooler than my friend doing it. I'm gonna remember Morgan Freeman.
That's the first voice I thought it was Morgan Freeman, or like if you want to get just super fancy, like David Attenborough.
Yeah,
doing your Master Mason's lecture, like ooh.
Well, so I like the word you used, experience, right? So it's not just information, it's not just talking, it's not just words. It goes beyond the lecture into an interactive experience, an immersive experience that you can look, eventually smell, touch, right, and all that too. And so there are many new things you can do with that experience that, if done with solemnity, right, and decorum, can enhance the Masonic experience, right? We're not talking about, flying in jetpacks and stuff like that. But like you could, but one thought came to mind. I just read a headline this week where, have you heard of like that movie Megan about this like creepy robot doll thing? They're doing a sequel.
Yeah.
And to drive people into the theaters, what they're doing is if you message, like DM the Megan movie Instagram account, they'll send you a special link, and you actually will interact, and like the doll will be texting you during the movie. So it's a in-person experience. So they're encouraging people to have their phones out during the movie because the movie's actually interacting back. I think it's a wild idea. Cool experiment. Could fail miserably, but it's different. It draws people there to enhance their experience.
A great marketing campaign. I mean, the best marketing and most wild marketing that has ever existed has always had some, implementation of a thing that you go to see that you're typically disconnected from outside of being an observer, to something happening within your life. I mean, the movie Smile and Smile 2, look up the ad campaigns for those. They literally sent people out into the wild to find places where filming was happening, to stare into cameras, and to smile their biggest, creepiest smile. I mean, it was was kind of cool, and also effective. It made those movies as popular as they were, whether or not they're your cup of tea and Rotten Tomatoes or not. But we always talk about the candidate experience, right? That's what we always say. It's always about the candidate experience. I mean, it's no secret here that I think I would be willing to bet any amount of money, the three of us at least, have gotten in trouble by some administration for attempting to enhance a degree experience.
For all the right reasons.
I will neither confirm nor deny that, but yes, you are correct.
So, and it's always been about the candidate's experience, right? To solidify them as being an integral part of Masonry. It's not just a club. It's not a card carrying thing. You went through an ordeal that changed the way you think forever. And how best can you do that? And who's to say? Can we disable the harumps? Yes, we can. Or,
sorry.
No, go
Put them
ahead.
all on mute.
Nope.
I was gonna say, like, mid meta quest, right? Like as your guy's going through and doing the lecture or whatever, and the guy's seeing all the cool stuff, and maybe he's in the pyramid or whatever, he hits the slide next button, and your guy looks up and he goes, and if you look up to the right, there's always the grumpy pat, and he like looks up and there's the two Muppet guys.
Nice.
Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah. But the thing is like, you could do this. And the reason I would say to do it is because, look, if every single town had an awesome pyramid with rooms and decor and it was paid for and there weren't bills and all this stuff, okay, fine. You don't need it.
Right. So you too can have virtual wood paneling and virtual peeled paint and
Wait a minute.
virtual asbestos.
Nicotine stains like up where the ceiling meets the wall. Yeah. I was speaking of that, like, so as soon as RJ started talking, I thought of, I don't know why everything's bringing me back to Disney, man, because at the end of the day, those crazy people, as much as they charge, they are all about experience.
They're
right?
about
Imagineers.
experience. Yes.
Yeah, totally. Like I was thinking of, you remember like in I don't know if they have them anymore. It's been years since I've been there, but those 4D theaters. So it wasn't just 3D and you got 4D. What was the 4D? Like they would like spritz you with water, or they would like have something in your chair that would whack you. And it's like, ooh. And, you got that full 4D. So I was like, we could totally do that. Like somebody's walking through that experience virtually and we are interacting with them physically in the physical world,
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Because that's another jumping off point to kind of the last thing I wanted to cover, which is now with like the MetaQuest 3, they've gone much better further into, instead of a closed environment that only the person wearing the goggles can see, now you can have more of there's what they call not just virtual reality, but augmented reality, AR. So they can actually see through the goggles and see the real world. So they're not going to trip and fall on anything. And they might see, a builder, someone right there, right? So you can enhance the physical world with something that's virtual, right? So it's not an all or nothing. It's mixed reality.
That would be the coolest thing. Like to literally put them on and you see the guy giving your lecture, and he goes, and to your on your left hand, this particular pillar, on your right, this, and then oh my God, they're there.
Yeah, they rise up, and then you're looking at,
and then you see, as the lodge members, right? You look around the room and everybody's looking at the screen and in awe of what this guy's seeing because it's on the screen too. And everybody's like, dang, that's pretty baller. And I think that's the coolest. I never even thought about the augmented reality piece of this.
Right. Yep. That's the next step, right? Is so that way you can still have that face-to-face interaction with someone giving a well-prepared lecture. And again, symbolism, right? We're all about symbolism. Most of the symbols that we see and experience come through the lectures. And at best, you might get a PowerPoint of it. You might get, a magic lantern slide of it. But wouldn't it be great if now you can see all the symbols of Masonry within arm's reach in high definition, right? So as they walk through the lecture, the symbols start appearing, and you got this buffet of Masonic symbols to savor, look at, contemplate, right? I mean, it's just you can just take things again to that next step, that next level.
Yeah, I think it's there's no ceiling to it. I mean, we keep on making stuff cooler and cooler, and really, I think the only thing that's going to change is the bulkiness of these viewers is going to continue to get slimmed down. I think about many years ago, I thought of how silly and pathetic it was that smartphones, not even smartphones at the time, they were like, if you guys remember back in like 2000, 2001, 2, 3, 4, LG launched something called the chocolate phone. And it was like my favorite phone.
Yeah.
I had the chocolate. I had the chocolate too. Really loved them. But one of them had this weird feature, which was a pass-through texting. So basically, it turned on the video camera, projected that on the screen, along with my text messaging. And this was like a very huge feature in South Korea, because the busy lifestyle, people were constantly texting and looking at their phone, but this allowed them to not like bump into people on the street. And I just thought about how pathetic that was. And now here we are. And it's like, I wish I had that. Not a feature on iPhone today.
That's funny.
But this pass-through technology, man, I didn't even think about that, John. I hate you for thinking of it first.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about AI yet, but that's a conversation for a different day, right?
When the lecture has 5 extra fingers.
Right. Yeah. So, let's see. Brother Chad Kopinski has an interesting question. Okay. Keep in mind, ritual is not just for the candidate, it's also for the brethren on the sidelines. So does a virtual degree take away from the communal experience?
Well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say yes, it does. I mean, it does. If you are participating in the initiatic experience the way that I know Chad does, or the way I know John does, or Robert does, then yes, absolutely. For your bread and butter Mason, probably not. It's taking him away from, the Brewers game, that he's secretly watching on his phone when nobody's looking, it doesn't. So, I mean, but John, I mean, you had a solve for that earlier where, if the person's immersed in VR, what's to stop us from broadcasting that out for everybody else to see,
Sure. On other people's headsets or on a communal screen.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go. Look, we've already solved the first problem. I love it.
Yeah, MetaQuest for everybody in Lodge. Everybody put on your quests.
Aprons and headsets. Let's go.
Yep. Push the X button to don your apron.
Press F to pay respects for the fallen.
Oh, could you imagine? Virtually drape the charter for 30 days.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Just in time for the Neutron movie.
Yeah. All right. And then how about full degrees? Doing a full Ender Apprentice, Fellowcraft, and or Master Mason degree entirely in a virtual or augmented environment.
Future generations will judge what we all have to say, and I know this too. I don't see a way to do it completely virtually, in a third degree per se. I could see it in an augmented fashion. I think that could be pulled off.
I had to change my heart just based on what you just said. So I would say the Entered Apprentice degree and the Fellowcraft degree, I could totally see making it augmented in some way, shape, or form, especially the lectures.
Those are easy ones, yeah.
Experience. But yeah, I would have to reserve my willingness to use VR for the third degree for sure. Or revert to what we talked about earlier, like, hey, you get to experience it unless you're part of a crappy lodge, then just put the headset on and deal with it. Or experience it and then do the lecture in some sort of virtualized environment. For sure.
Yeah, I think I'd go along with you guys on that one. Yeah, it's not the same yet, right? But one day we'll get to Ready Player One, right? Oh gosh, such a good book. Movie, meh. Except for like the movie. The movie was good for what it was, but it wasn't the book. But we're gonna get there. That's kind of the promise of some of these developers like Meta and others. They want to keep pushing the envelope what you can augment in the real world. So that's cool. All right, so that's all I've got. So final question would be, if this technology were seamless enough, ubiquitous enough that it was just, you didn't have to fumble with cables, and it was just like, okay, everyone put on your headsets and we're all in it, ready to go, smooth as butter. And we do it with decorum, solemnity, right? It's done very well, and with respect to the Masonic tradition. Would you be an advocate for it? Would you not only use it, but continue to promote it and try to spread its use? So we'll start with Robert.
Let me say maybe. I think about
definite maybe.
I really don't know which way I would go on it. Because honestly, if I say that if we've gotten past all these hurdles, then it becomes kind of a show me the science, show me the data kind of an issue. Like, I want to know what candidates who have gone through it felt like. And maybe there's a few, who go through it and they don't like it. And then we offer them sort of a healing experience, right? But maybe there's data that shows this was awesome. It offered a sort of new avenue for engagement. The storytelling really brought me in, and I hesitate to use the word, but like maybe it gets gamified a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, I mean, yeah, I would advocate it. I would advocate for it in the right circumstances. And I think those circumstances, for the time being, we've laid out in the episode. I won't rehash them, but I think, there'll be a time where it just won't be, there won't be a need to rationalize it. You could just do it.
Yeah. I like that, right? You remove the friction. It's a common thing. And it's done with care and respect. Joe, how about you?
Well, I really liked RJ's answer, but instead of being a copycat, I would say I would be super okay with easing into it, using some of the things that we talked about this evening, right? Where we're talking about enhancing the ritual experience and not just flat out replacing it. And, let's be fair. I mean, we joke about it all the time. We had a show about it, about where Masonry is going in the next few years. This may be a conversation that is going to be forced to be had as opposed to nice to have had, right? Where it comes to how are we going to be doing Masonry in 20 years. But at least when it comes to me and how I view it, the candidate experience is 90% of what's important in Masonry, right? And the other 10 is just fulfilling the desires of those who actually want to practice Masonry. To that end, I think it's really important to make sure we don't replace the candidate experience, because we've all had memorable parts of it, whether we've been the recipients or the givers of it. But definitely enhancing. I see nothing wrong with enhancing the experience the way it is now, whether that's giving them an immersive lecture or making the actual parts of the degree where they don't have that impactful meaning by being in a room of people, and augmenting those with virtual reality or whatever other tools you have, because we already do it, right? You said it before, wow, there's lodges that have PowerPoint presentations, and it's 2025. We're amazed by that. So I think easing into that and giving people a taste of what the future could hold might be a good way to give it a positive foot forward. So I know that was a super salesy answer, but that's what you're getting tonight.
Salesman Joe, I like it. I had ChatGPT's new image creation feature generate what would a Masonic Lodge experience look like in the MetaQuest. And here you go. Through the eyes, you can walk into a lodge. It's well adorned with all the good accoutrements.
You know what's great is that for why does MetaQuest get what it should look like more than actual lodges?
Where's the wood paneling? Where is the desk with all the crumply papers and crap all over it?
Oh my gosh. So that's exactly where I wanted to go, because my answer to the question is, one, I want to see it first just to make sure like that it is a quality experience, right? This is not something that you trust on blind faith. And if it's better than the alternative, like why wouldn't we provide this as an option for a candidate who wants to see things this way or experience things this way, right? So it's just the next affinity lodge, right? It's whether you go traditional observance, whether you go country, all the different flavors of Masonry we talked about 2 weeks ago. Great. Now we can offer this up as a different lodge experience. And for some of you who may be thinking, well, that's great and all, but it's, it's kind of cartoony and all that. If you know your history, one thing that I held to the very end here is that Castle Island Virtual Lodges, their first platform was on Second Life.
Yep.
Not Zoom, not WebEx. They actually used a virtual meeting space with people flying around. All right, so they had digital avatars way back
Like
in the pre-COVID
vampires.
times. Yeah. So, again, there's already precedent on having a virtual lodge experience. Now we're just taking it to the third dimension where we're mixing reality, both virtual and alternative, and trying something new. And I think I'm excited to see what would happen if we did that the right way with decorum and didn't make it over the top, a caricature of what we're trying to do here. But if it beats, not being able to get ritualists together, right? I know some jurisdictions barely have enough people who know the degrees, and it's like, well, we've got this 1 degree team that goes around the state and does the ritual, like, or the candidate can have a well done ritual. I'll check off the well done ritual every time, no matter where it is. So with that, I want to thank you all very much for watching and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.